What did I talk about last time? These, what the hell are they called? All right, order of operations. Now that I've thought it through 3 times. Number 1, I'm going to sand these profiles to make sure they're all flush. Number 2, I'm going to thin out the layers until they're the desired thickness. So this one has to be the same as the ricasso on the blade. These have to be thinner. And then after that, I'm shaping or sculpting the outer scales and getting the handle pretty much done. So after the handle's all pretty much totally done, I'm going to refinish the blade to a clean satin finish, make sure everything's as clean as possible. I'm going to etch it in ferric chloride and instant coffee to darken it. So it's gonna be black, it's gonna have that shiny nickel band, and then black. Once that's done, then I glue the handle to the blade. And after that, should be good to go. I have these pins super tight so that everything stays indexed together. And this might be overkill, but I have to use a drill to get them in. Oh shit! I'm focusing on these areas right here in between whatever these nubbins are. So I'm gonna file and sand these areas until they're flush together. Then when I'm done with that, I'm gonna switch to this one and then sand all the areas in between here and make those flush. What I'm doing now is I am thinning out the frame of the handle. It is 247 thousandths of an inch thick. The knife where it meets the handle is 200 thousandths of an inch thick. So I have to take off 47th out. My tolerances are +2, -0, meaning I either have to be exactly the same thickness or I'm allowed 2 thousandths of an inch extra. I don't want to go any lower, or I don't want to go any thinner than that because the knife won't fit, it'll be too tight, but I don't want to go any higher than that because then the gap will be too big. So I'm getting most of the material ground out on the belt grinder, and then I'm going to go to the disc grinder. The reason why I go to the disc is it is much flatter than the belt. The belt has some give, and so it'll never actually be flat. There's going to be some areas that are rounded out. The disc itself isn't completely flat either. It's pretty good, but sandpaper isn't perfect. So at a later stage, I will actually use one of my diamond plates to flatten the handle material as much as I can. At this point, the frame is now the exact thickness that I want it to be, and I've also thinned out these middle liners just for looks. The fit is tight, exactly where I want it to be. Shit. There we go. No gaps. Fits pretty tight. Next step is to work on the butt of the handle again. I didn't go all the way and clean out everything. I wanted to finish it after I got all the pieces to the right thickness. So now I'll finish up the butt completely, and I think I'll go ahead and glue up the handle and then sculpt it after gluing. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to make sure that these are as totally flat as I could possibly get them. So I use the belt grinder to get them mostly to thickness. I use the disc grinder to get them closer to being as flat as I can. The disc is flat enough for most cases. It's much flatter than the belt grinder because it doesn't have like the belts being all squishy sitting on the platen. But sandpaper is still not perfect. This is the flattest thing that I have in this shop. And then I'm just going to do little motions like this. And that looks pretty good. So these two pieces are done. I just need to do the rest of them. So at this point, I was planning on gluing all the handle components tonight, actually last night, Sunday. It's really late now, Monday night, actually it's Tuesday morning, and I would need to pull an all-nighter to be able to finish and glue all the handle pieces. It's getting to the point where I'm getting frustrated and I want to start cutting corners. And I've vowed to never rush a project again, especially one of this caliber. So calling it a night, pushing the deadline back one more day, and I'm going to sleep. All right, so it is now the next morning. I'm working on this inner part right here. Last night I was getting really impatient and I wanted to start cutting corners. I just jumped to sandpaper and just wanted to get these scratches out, but it's not clean. I need to file the inside to make sure these corners and surfaces are crisp. Cleaning up these surfaces, there's a lot of like weird waves and dips and divots in them. And to get a good clean sanded finish, you have to have a good clean filed finish. If I don't finish this knife in time for blade show, so be it. I would much rather have a nice knife than a sloppy knife. Alright, now I'm introducing you. This is Sam. He is my full-time apprentice slash assistant of 2 years now. He has been my friend for over a decade, actually. He's a quick learner. He does everything from profiling, rough grinding, heat treating, sanding, things like that. Right now, he's helping me sand this blade because I am out of time. Alright, I done goofed. I planned out a bunch of stuff, and then I realized if I glue it and use these pins to index, I have to file and sand the pins afterwards. And I have no idea how I'm going to do that. Shit! Okay, so I was about ready to give up completely, not completely, but at least temporarily. But I found that Dremel, I sanded these areas as best as I could, and they're good enough for now. I definitely need to actually still go back after everything's glued because I'm an idiot and I have visible pins. So for now, they're good enough, they're ready to glue. All the pieces are flat. They're ready to be assembled. And then tomorrow I'm gonna spend the entire day shaping. I'm gonna glue the blade, and then I'm gonna get ready to fly. So while I'm flying on the plane, the epoxy is going to be curing. So epoxy mixed, but I am an idiot once again, and I didn't even measure it. I got the scales out, or I got the scale out, and I just started pouring it without even looking at the numbers. So this is why I don't tend to work really late at night. So yeah, I'm gonna remix the epoxy and we're gonna get to it. Well, the hard part is over. That was the most difficult thing I've ever tried. It's not seamless, even though the pins were really tight. Every time I assembled and reassembled, it would shift a little bit. So I would sand it and it would get flush, but then you see here there's a little tiny bit of a seam. I'm still happy with it. This is more of a prototype or a proof of concept than anything else. And I mean, I don't think there's anything else out there that I've seen like it. So next, tomorrow morning, I shape the rest of it. And if I'm successful with that, then I glue it to the knife and then I fly out the next morning.